Hey, what's up? Hello, welcome back to my channel. Today, I decided to sit down and talk about books that I think I would save if my house were on fire. This is obviously a very stressful thing to think about, so I'm really hoping that never happens. That has happened to two people that I know, and it is super traumatizing. So not to make light of a situation at all, I'm sure if that were actually happening, I probably wouldn't grab any books. I'd probably freak out, make sure us two humans were alive, I'd grab some clothes and run. But as I was looking through my shelves, like my book collection, these are my freaking children. You know what I mean? Like, even moving, oh my god, it was so hard just to move and like go through my books and get rid of so many books. Oh my god, it was so traumatizing. But they just look so beautiful up here. I love so many of them. So many of them have, like, as I'm sure you all know, and you've all had these experiences yourself, like, have totally changed who I am as a person, have totally changed my life, the way that I think, like, have really been foundational for my own personal growth and development as a human being and as an adult. So all of these books are so important to me. But as I was going through my shelves thinking about this like idea, this prompt, if you'd like to call it, I literally just started grabbing. I'm like, what should my strategy be? Like, should I grab books that I haven't read before? Like, but then that's stupid. Or like, should I just grab books that I feel like would be comforting in that moment? I don't know. I ended up just grabbing a bunch of books that are pretty much just like some of my favorite books of all time. Some of these aren't necessarily, I don't know. I guess they're probably like favorite books of all time, or they were like important to me for some reason. Either way, we're gonna jump right into it because there's a lot of books here. I just tossed this one down. I picked up Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor E. Frankl because I saw this, like, as I was sitting down to film this, and I'm like, that would be just a great book to have in a crisis. You know what I mean? I feel like this would give great emotional guidance throughout any hard time. So this Viktor E. Frankl, I'm sure a lot of you have already heard of it. Viktor E. Frankl was a Jewish man during the time of World War II. So he was in Nazi death camps, and this book kind of gives insight into that experience, but he's also a psychotherapist, so these are a lot of his thoughts and beliefs about going through really hard times, and specifically the type of hard time that he was going through, and just giving perspective on life pretty much. Again, that's a very simplified version of this, or their very simplified way to describe this book. But I think that it would give great guidance in a difficult time for sure, and hopefully we can all grow from this book or books like this, but specifically this book. So yeah, I just wanted to throw that one in there. I also decided to put on this list my Mary Oliver books. I keep these separate from a lot of my other books. They're not on any specific shelves. They're sitting on my desk all the time because I just love this woman and the way that she thinks. I read these books like 4 years ago now, and I swear I think about them almost every day. Like, if not every day, then like pretty darn close. Specifically when she says, and I think she says it in this book, Upstream, which is her collection of essays, I wanted to head into the work of my life. I wanted to know that who I was. I think that's so powerful, but I love the way that this woman lives, or lived. The way that she experiences the world and nature and people and being alive. I think that it is so beautiful and comforting and insightful and full of wisdom. I wish I were a little bit more like Mary Oliver. Absolutely love her. And then I also have Dream Work, which is the only collection of her poetry that I have, which is funny because you'd think that I do love her so much. Like, I think I'd want to pick up more of them, and I do. But my relationship with poetry is super interesting because I like, as I'm sure a lot of you do too, but I like reading them and then going back to them. I don't feel like I constantly need more collections of poetry the same way that I do like fiction novels. Yeah, so I'm content with this for now, but I love Mary Oliver. I'd probably want to keep these with me forever and ever and ever and ever as well. Let's go through this massive freaking pile, bro. I picked up off my shelves Carson McCullers' The Heart is a Lonely Hunter. I read this book several years ago now, but it is another one that has really stuck with me, specifically some specific scenes in this book. We follow several different characters at different stages of life, very different types of people. I think this was published in 1940 something. She was born in Columbus, Georgia on February 19th, 1917. Yeah, so I think that maybe this is from like the 30s. I don't remember if this was during like not during the Great Depression. Maybe it was. She was 23 when she published this. That's insane. She was from the American South. It's set in a small southern mill town in the 1930s. Okay, yeah, so the 1930s. And we follow several different characters and their lives, and they're struggling with their own daily lives and their feelings and money and whatever the heck humans struggle with. There's so much to this book that I just absolutely love, but one specific scene that I think about all the time is we have a young female character in this story who's just like a little girl, like a scrappy little 12-year-old girl, I think. And her character, you see her as just being kind of like rambunctious, a little bit boisterous, like wanting to run around and play all the time. She seems like a really cool, tough, happy kid. But then there's like this one scene where she just like runs away from something happening. And it's not bad per se, but runs away from something happening. And you see her sitting on stairs, and like the description of her pounding her fist against her leg and just like trying to hold back sobs because she feels so lonely. Like, it hits me the same way it hit me in Greta Gerwig's version of Little Women when Jo was telling her mom, like, I just feel so lonely. Like, bro, that hits so hard. So I think about that scene all the time. I can't wait to reread this book because I'm feeling it. Someday I'll reread it, you know what I mean? I'm in that phase where I want to reread everything, but love that. Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro. I read this fairly recently, like 2 years ago maybe a year ago, I don't remember. This book encapsulates life, man. It encapsulates life. It's set at a boarding school somewhere in England, and we follow pretty much three different young kids that grow up together. And we see where their life goes from there, being in this boarding school and growing up and what happens afterwards. But this is like very deceptive. Like, it's a very deceiving type of book to the reader, where it really creeps up on you. And then the meaning and significance of the story really slaps you in the face kind of at the end. And you're just like, what the heck, man? And it just like you just feel so bereft as a human. But like, also like, I don't know. Never Let Me Go, love it. Sula by Toni Morrison. This is the only Toni Morrison I've read so far in my life, and I read this pretty much exactly a year ago now. And, I also read this a year ago. I feel like I read this a little bit before this anyway. Oh my god. Like, literally so much oh my god for this book. I cannot even. This is like one of the most stunningly amazing written books I've ever read in my whole entire freaking life. Set in this small town in America, primarily following these two young women who grow up together and kind of grow up and have different lives of their own. It's all about loss of innocence, and yeah, it's really like, that's really the only way I feel like I can best describe this book, is it really is about losing your innocence in life, no matter which stage you're at, and how we're constantly, as we're growing and moving through life, losing our innocence step after step after step. And we see lots of different people in this town, and I just think that it is such a powerful book, and I would just save it for some of these quotes alone. As Reverend Deal moved into his sermon, the hands of the woman unfolded like pairs of ravens' wings and flew high above their hats in the air. They did not hear all of what he said. They heard the one word or phrase or inflection that was for them the connection between the event and themselves. For some it was the term sweet Jesus, and they saw the lamb's eye and the truly innocent victim, themselves. They acknowledged the innocent child hiding in the corner of their hearts holding a sugar and butter sandwich. That one. the one who lodged deep in their fat, thin, old, young skin, and was the one the world had hurt. Or they thought of their son newly killed, and remembered his legs and short pants, and wondered where the bullet went in. Or they remembered how dirty the room looked when their father left home, and wondered if that is the way the slim young Jew felt, he who for them was both son and lover, and in whose downy face they could see the sugar and butter sandwiches and feel the oldest and most devastating pain there is. Not the pain of childhood, but the remembrance of it. Then I'd save Mrs. Dalloway by Virginia Woolf, which is like, when I say like top 2 book titles that come to mind as like my top 2 most, that's hard though, man. It's really hard to narrow it down to 2. But if like in a pinch, when people are like, what's your favorite book of all time? It's always between Middlemarch by George Eliot, which, spoiler alert's coming up in this video, but Middlemarch by George Eliot and Mrs. Dalloway by Virginia Woolf. I have a lot of favorite books of all time, but like in a pinch, those are the 2 that I'd answer. This was such like a life-changing book for me when I read it. I was astounded at Virginia Woolf's writing in this book. We follow Mrs. Dalloway, who's over the course of one day going through her life, trying to prepare for a party that she is throwing. And you just see her observing people, and you see her thinking about people, you see her thinking about her past and her history, you see her thinking about her life. You get kind of the way that Virginia Woolf like writes, bro, in this, like she just slips into one consciousness after another so seamlessly, where you're like, whoa, that flowed so masterfully. And you see somebody observing somebody else, like a different side character doing whatever in this story, and then you slip into that character's reality or like consciousness, and it's very stream of consciousness, and you see what they're actually thinking, and then you see the disparity between how each person is viewing the other person and what they're actually thinking. But it's so good. It is so good. This book, to me, like the main takeaway is like PTSD, basically, from, and there are characters in here that were soldiers in war, and then so that PTSD, and people not really taking mental health concerns seriously or acknowledging them at all in this story. And then we see Mrs. Dalloway also, just like by thinking about her life, we see the way that like we can develop PTSD from seemingly mundane or normal, ordinary things that happen throughout our lives, and the way that that changes us and affects us. And ooh, I just love this. Then we have some Kurt Vonnegut's. Okay, we have some Kurt Vonnegut's, because when asked who are your favorite authors, again, I have a lot. In a pinch, I answer Virginia Woolf, George Eliot, and Kurt Vonnegut. I would like to throw James Baldwin and Toni Morrison up there, but I want to read, I feel like I want to read more of their stories. I have a lot of favorite authors, actually. This is really hard, because I discovered Flannery O'Connor and Anton Chekhov this year, too, and boy. But okay, I'm getting sidetracked. Kurt Vonnegut. We're circling back to him. I adore Kurt Vonnegut. Oh my gosh. So I have 3 books here that I decided to save in a fire. And I love and adore pretty much every single book. Like literally every single book that I've read by him. Adore. If I could save the entire Kurt Vonnegut collection that I have, I would do that. So like, that's an honorary mention here in this video. But for the sake of the video, I decided to pick up the first book that I read by Kurt Vonnegut, which is Breakfast of Champions. And this I read such a long time ago that I really do forget the specifics of what this book is about. I believe that we follow his character Kilgore Trout, who is like a failed science fiction writer, kind of traveling across America, because I think maybe I remember more than I think I do, because I think he was invited to speak at some thing, some like conference about or to speak to somebody who like loved his writing or something. He's like traveling across America to go somewhere. And we see him kind of observing America, and we see what Kurt Vonnegut, you know, like observes about America. And I think that it is such like a fantastic sardonic tone that he takes, and he is just so full of disappointment for kind of the human, like what we've done with the world, and I guess like with the human race, but also so much compassion and so much like love for it as well. So I just love the tone in which you could tell this man has like, he's no longer with us, I was gonna say sees the world, but yeah, sees the world. And I just feel like you get so much wisdom from Kurt Vonnegut's stories, and also they're so funny and fun to read and comforting. So this is another one that I want to reread, but this one holds a special place in my heart because it was the first one that I read. And I just feel like my world was rocked. My life was changed forever. So yeah, even though I don't remember specifics about this, very important to me. And then also Slaughterhouse-Five, of course, because who doesn't love Slaughterhouse-Five, first of all. But this one's probably, I want to say the one he's, you know, most famous for, most well known for. This is also his anti-war novel. It's about PTSD. So Kurt Vonnegut himself was a soldier in World War II, and he was in, which is what this story is about. And this is fiction, but it's kind of semi-autobiographical. And he was in a underground like meat locker during the bombing of Dresden. And that's literally what this book is about. And we follow, what's his name? Yeah, Billy Pilgrim. And he's like a dentist or an orthodontist, if I'm remembering correctly. Again, I read this a while ago. And like that character that was experiencing all those different things, and you see him, this main character, experiencing his life out of order. And then there's sections where he's like, thinks he's been abducted by aliens, or like has been abducted by aliens, and he's like in this observation tank, basically being observed. And it's just like about the absurdity of life. Like once you take a step back and like detach yourself, because like when such significant things such as like this traumatizing event that I just explained when he was a soldier happen to you in your life, and it doesn't necessarily need to be something as freaking significant like and obvious as being a soldier in a war, but when certain things happen in your life that that are kind of traumatizing or are super traumatizing, they really almost make you detach from your own body, and they really make you detach. And then it allows you almost this horribly painful but also very enlightening ability to observe yourself from like this outside perspective. And that's something that I think about when I think about this book. And you could just see like how absurd literally everything is, and that can be a very debilitating thought, but it can also be a really freeing thought in life as well. Like there's no point. That could be like a horrible way to think, but it could also just be a super liberating way to think, as a side note. So anyways, love Kurt Vonnegut, and I also decided to grab, I love this, my sister got this for me, okay? My sister got this for me and I love this. And this is Kurt Vonnegut's If This Isn't Nice, What Is? And that title in itself is another thing that I specifically love Kurt Vonnegut for, and I also think about all the time. And I think it was in his book Timequake. Yeah, I think it was in Timequake, which is actually his book that I rated the lowest when I read it, but still, like, I love Kurt Vonnegut, bro. Is that his character at one point in that book, and I think it was towards the end, he was sitting at like a barbecue outside, like on a lawn chair. And I remember him thinking like, you know, when things feel really good, you really should at every moment that you can take a step back and think like, if this isn't nice, what is? Like, just be grateful for like the little moments that you feel that beauty in your life. I'm like, oh my God, I love Kurt Vonnegut. I just love Kurt Vonnegut. So I say that to myself a lot when I'm feeling really good. I say, if this isn't nice, I don't know what is. Or like, if this isn't nice, what is, you know? And it really just kind of puts your gratitude in check. But this is a collection of speeches that Kurt Vonnegut gave at different graduating ceremonies. So for like colleges, high schools, what have you. And it does end up getting, oh, there's like a letter in here. It does end up getting a little bit repetitive at certain points because he kind of repeats a lot of the same notions in his different speeches, as can be expected. But I think if you love Kurt Vonnegut, you should definitely read this. I'm gonna read this one. I was just flipping through it and I'm like, what did I highlight here? I see that I've highlighted something, so I'll read it to you. It says, I'm going to write a play about the breakup of a marriage, and at the end of the play, I'm going to have a character say what people should say to each other in real life at the end of a marriage. I'm sorry. You, being human, need 100 different affectionate and like-minded companions. I'm only one person. I've tried, but I could never be 100 people to you. You've tried, but you could never be 100 people to me. Too bad. Goodbye. Like, he's so funny and dry, but also you see like he does have so much like warmth for humanity as well. Love him. Anyway, and another book I grabbed, I keep it right next to my Kurt Vonnegut collection on the shelves. I grabbed this because it's my favorite book title ever of all time that I've ever found. Ever. At least that I'm aware of. And I also enjoyed reading this as well. So this is Charles Bukowski's The Captain is Out to Lunch and the Sailors Have Taken Over the Ship. And that's just like my favorite title, my favorite book title ever. I feel like that's something that my grandpa would say when he's like, the world is literally going to hell, or like nothing is like, everything's ridiculous. It's like the captain's out to lunch, the sailors have taken over the ship. You know what I mean? I love it. I just love it. But this is also nonfiction, and this is a collection of journal entries that Charles Bukowski made. And I also really like and appreciate the way he sees the world. I find him to be, yes, misogynistic, unfortunately. And there's definitely elements of that in Kurt Vonnegut's writing as well, unfortunately. But I really, like, that's not the main thing that I pick up when I'm reading Bukowski. Like, I just enjoy the way that he experiences the world. It's funny. It's just funny to me, and I feel like you can also find a lot of wisdom and heart in this as well. So I really love that, and I specifically just love the book title. And the cover, like, this is just one of my favorite books that I own. I don't know. When I moved this time, you know how I keep mentioning I got rid of a lot of books and I was super sad. At one point, I'm like, I really thought that I got rid of this. And I was like out and about one day and I'm like, did I get rid of The Captain is Out to Lunch and the Sailors Have Taken Over the Ship? Like, I was panicking all day. I'm like, I really hope I didn't get rid of that. Like, that would have been the stupidest mistake I ever made. Oh my goodness. Like, oh no. And I got home and I saw that it was on my shelves and I was like, thank God, and I started crying. Anyway, I also added to this list Frankenstein by Mary Shelley, because this is just one of my favorite books of all time. Like, top 5 probably, I don't know. Love this, so emotionally affecting. Love Mary Shelley's writing. The creature in this story is just, makes my heart melt, especially the sections where he's like observing this family, and like it's really creepy, but like really makes my heart melt, because he wants that connection and family, and you see him like reading books to try to like understand language and people, and you see him reading Paradise Lost, and he just wants so badly to be a part of his family, and it's just so sad. He just wants companion. He's lonely, and this book just, I think, is the ultimate empathy, like ultimate what's it called, advocates for empathy. Like, truthfully love Frankenstein, and it's just so beautiful and poetic as well. So anyway, I'd also say The Hour of the Star by Clarice Lispector, because it's beautiful, first of all, and second of all, I think this book is just a beautiful wisdom book, essentially. And it is about our main character, who's a young girl living, I believe, in Brazil. This is translated from the Portuguese, by the way. But she's living in Brazil. She doesn't have anything. She's living kind of in squalor, and her story is kind of narrated by this, or at some points we see this other young boy kind of observing her, and who's friends with her, and he's like just so angry and bitter about her being happy, because she's just like so accepting of life and like happy to be like just happy. She's just like happy. And I think this is just, again, just such a beautiful book of wisdom about like being happy. I don't know. And like not wanting, like just being content without wanting. So I love that. And then we have some James Baldwins. We got some James Baldwins. I grabbed 2 because these are like a million out of 5 stars. Both of these. There's no fault. When I say there is no problem with either of these books, fight me on it. I mean, like, maybe you guys feel like there are some, but I find that really hard to believe that anybody could find a fault with either of these books. And that's If Beale Street Could Talk and Giovanni's Room. Giovanni's Room is so much about, I guess, loneliness and belonging as well, but like so much more. Also internalized homophobia, that's definitely a thing, or like self-acceptance. It's definitely a theme in here. But I think the feelings and themes of loneliness in this book hit so deeply. It's such a painful book. Like, this is truly one of the most painful books ever that I've read. And then If Beale Street Could Talk, I think is such a beautiful depiction and display and example of family and what you do for family and the people that you love, and standing beside the people that you choose, no matter what. And also just injustice and the injustice of the criminal justice system and the complexities of that as well. So, and the complexities of family. So these masterpieces, freaking masterpieces. I also decided to save The Sorrows of Young Werther by Jonathan Wolfgang Vonnegut, who is a German writer. This was apparently, I almost said Neapolitan. This was apparently Napoleon's favorite book. I don't know what that says, but there you go. One of my favorite books. Love this. This totally shook up my brain chemistry and my life and my brain in general when I read this. And this is about this guy. It first appeared, it was published in 1774, by the way. But this is about this guy who's writing letters to his friend, so it's epistolary, and you only get our main character's perspective, so you don't get the responses to his letters. But he is like such a romantic with a capital R dude. Like, he's living and like looking at the trees and like, oh my gosh, like life is so wistful and wispy and beautiful, and look at the trees. I don't know. And then he meets this young girl and he just is like besotted. He's in love. He is head over heels. His life depends on this love. But she is engaged to this other guy. She is completely unrequited. And it's about, now he's super depressed and in complete agony and despair, and he sees no color but gray, and it's a horrible, and his character is one of the most fascinating characters in literature to me, and one of the most interesting characters. Love this so much. And I think that this book really reminded me of people that I know, or kind of reminded me of people that I've known in real life. That's all I want to say about it, because this is like a book that I struggle to talk about because it's so personal, like truly personal. I don't want to talk about it on the internet, but very personal. I would save this in a fire, hands down. Okay. The Iliad, I'm not going anywhere without this bad boy. I am not going anywhere without this bad boy. I reread this recently, and this is phenomenal. Guys gotta read it. Like, everyone's gotta read this. Everyone's got to read this. And also, I'm not losing this edition. I took notes in here, you know? Like, I took freaking notes. I highlighted the shit out of this. There is every single element of humanity displayed in this verse, poem, epic poem, this narrative, this story. It's in here. It is in here, and it is so layered and complex, and you could look at it from every which freaking angle. And I wonder, like, reading this story at different times in your life, like, what I'm going to think of each different character at different points, because it's gonna change. It already did. Like, just reading it the second time, it totally already did. And I just think this is such a beautiful, powerful story, and I don't want to lose this because I took notes. So, the Iliad. And like I hinted at before, I'm saving Middlemarch. I am saving Middlemarch. This book, and I'm saying this about a lot of these books because that's the name of the game, baby. That's the nature of this video. But this book changed me, changed my life. Totally. And I forgot a book. I remembered the book. This book totally changed my life. Like, we follow a bunch of young people. I'm getting a spam call. Whoops. We follow a bunch of young people living in this small town, called Middlemarch in England. And they are all of, like, age where they're getting married, basically. So we see them thinking about that. We see them, when you're at that age, you think about your life in such, like, an idealistic way, and you have expectations, right? You're like, this is the way it's going to go. This is the story I'm telling myself about my life. Like, this is who I'm going to be. This is going to go like this, And then you see how life continues to happen, and you realize it never works out the way that you think that it's going to, or the way that you think it's meant to. Like, life just happens, and it never goes the way you think. And you see every single character in this kind of learning that lesson for their specific reasons. And Dorothea Brooke's my favorite character. Like, top 3, but, like, my favorite character ever in books. Like, ever. I love Dorothea Brooke. The way that I related to her when I first read this, when I was, like, 22, was gnarly. Like, it was crazy. And this book is so special to me. And George Eliot's just a phenomenal writer. The way she writes, like, the way she describes things, like, the way she describes the way her characters see something, it's like, nobody's ever put it like that before. You really just, like, nailed it. Like, you saran wrapped every nook and cranny of that potential thought. You squeezed the life out of it in a good way. Like, boy, it's good. I don't even know what I just meant there, but it's great. Another book that, again, one of my favorite books of all time, like, really affected me, changed me, was so important when it showed up in my life, is Leo Tolstoy's A Confession. This edition, this Penguin Classics edition, has a confession and other religious writings, but specifically his nonfiction long form essay, or whatever it is, about, or called A Confession, is what I'm talking about. Like, in that story, he's talking about depression and thoughts of wanting to not be alive. And all I can say is, I get it. Yeah, like, this is something that was really necessary for me in my life when I read it, and a good thing. That actually leads me into another book that I just feel so strongly connected to, because this book, Jeffrey Eugenides' The Marriage Plot, is the reason that I read this. So these books kind of go hand in hand to me, but this book was like the #1 book that was the turning point in my reading career, or my reading journey. Because before I read this, I was pretty much primarily reading, like, which is still great, like, fantastic books, but I was primarily reading contemporary books, like contemporary published books, and not really finding connection or interest in anything elsewhere. Like, I'd read some classics before I'd read this, of course, but I didn't, like, connect with it, or them. And then this book, because specifically there's one character in here that's like reading all these different books, and he read this book and is like thinking a lot about philosophy and life, it really made me want to read those books. And then I read them, and I'm like, I get it now. I get it now. Like the doors have opened, the heavens have opened. And so this was one of the most life-changing books ever for that reason. But also because we follow 3 characters in here, that one male character that I was talking about, and then we follow another male character and a female character who are kind of in this, they're all kind of in a relationship in one way or another with each other. But the other male character is bipolar. And this is the best, most accurate, and I have experience with bipolar disorder, not personally, but I have experience with other people having it, the most accurate representation and depiction of bipolar disorder ever. I don't think it could get better than this. I mean, like, please correct me if I'm wrong, but like, this is it. And that was super powerful for me. I'm trying not to cry, but that was super powerful for me when I read this. So I'd save these. I also grabbed the complete stories of Flannery O'Connor because I discovered her this year, and I don't think this woman can do any wrong in her writing stories. Like, she is a masterful writer. Like, these stories suck you in immediately. They build atmosphere in the first sentence. I swear. Like, I swear. And her stories are so freaking creepy. Like, they're creepy. And she really captures, like, the Gothic the Gothic American South. Like, these are Southern Gothics. These are creepy. She captures evil, I feel like. Like, she's trying to say something, and she's saying it, and she's showing you. She's a phenomenal writer. I'd love to keep her collected stories with me forever. And I also picked up, I actually haven't read this book, but I have 3 editions of Chekhov's short stories that I've read a couple of short stories from, and I don't want to be like, I'm going to save all of these, but I could. So, like, I'm trying to save Chekhov here, but I picked his A Life in Letters, which is just a collection of his letters that he's written, because I want to read this. But basically the energy that I'm bringing with this is like, I'd save Chekhov. And I guess I'd grab that one, you know, because I want to read it. And then these are, I guess, just like bonus picks, because when I was looking at, and these are my last 2 books, when I was looking at all of my books, I saw these and I'm like, actually I saw this first one and I'm like, that's one of my favorite books I've ever read. It's one of my favorite books I've ever read. I can't let this go. And now I'm sitting here, I'm looking at other books, I'm like, let's just, basically, it'd be a difficult time if I lost my books. It'd be a really hard time, okay? Like, I'd Billy Pilgrim that one. That would be traumatizing. But I saw this, and I feel like maybe I'll mention it, because this is just one of the best books I've ever read, and it's from this century, and it's The Colony by Audrey McGee. This was amazing. This apparently was shortlisted for the Women's Prize for Fiction. Was it? I don't remember that. That had to have been recently, because I feel like that's why I bought this. It was shortlisted. It was. Anyway, this is basically about this painter who goes to this really small, not very populated, I think there's mostly women there, and like one man and one little boy or something. It's just like one little boy. Island off the coast of Ireland, where they're the last native speakers of this specific language. And this book is all about language. This other guy comes to the island trying to preserve this language. And we see the way that they're both interacting with this island and this culture, and the way, like, how the inhabitants feel about both of these outsiders coming into this island. And this book just kind of brings me, these are very different books, but it brings me similar energy that Playground by Richard Powers brings, and I also really loved this book, okay? Really loved it. And that's this idea of progress and change and kind of like evolution in a way. And I think these are both such powerful, amazingly written and crafted stories about that topic of change and evolution and all that stuff. And adaptation and preservation. So yes, those are the books. I try to get a big suitcase, but those are the books that like I'd be sad if I lost any of these books, but that I'd try to save in a fire, okay? Please let me know down below the books that you think that you would save in a fire, or just like top favorite books. Like, what are your reasonings? You know, I would really love to know. Have you read any of these books that I've mentioned today? What do you think of them? But yeah, thanks so much for watching. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and goodbye.